The small clinic room was cold, but the tension between them was hotter than the midday sun outside. Linda sat on the worn-out chair, her hands trembling as she clutched the small bundle wrapped tightly in a pink blanket. Her eyes, red and swollen from sleepless nights, were fixed on her sister-in-law, Grace, who stood across the room with a forced smile that didn't reach her eyes. Grace's voice was soft, almost too sweet, but there was an edge to it that made Linda's skin crawl. "You've named her already, right? The baby? You have to tell me. I just want to know." Linda's heart pounded. She had expected jealousy before, but this demand, felt like a sharp knife slicing through her fragile peace. "Why do you need to know? The names are private. It's my baby." Grace took a step closer, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Come on, Linda. You know I want to use them first. If I don't, someone else will." Linda's breath caught in her throat. She had seen the way Grace looked at her husband, how she tried to get close to him in family gathering, how she whispered behind closed doors. But this was crossing a line that shouldn't be crossed. "Grace, stop it. This isn't about names. It's about respect. You don't get to demand things like this." Grace's smile flickered and then hardened. "Respect? You think you're the only one who deserves respect? I'm family too, and I won't let you have everything." Linda's eyes filled with tears, but she refused to show weakness. "You want the names? Fine. But know this, I won't let you steal my happiness." At that moment, Linda's husband, David, walked in, catching the heated exchange. His face was a mix of confusion and concern. "What's going on here?" Grace turned to him quickly, her tone sweet and innocent. "Nothing, David. Just talking about the baby names." But Linda knew better. She could see the storm brewing behind Grace's calm facade, a storm that threatened to tear their family apart. Linda had always dreamed of becoming a mother. She grew up in a quiet neighborhood, raised by loving parents who taught her the value of family and hard work. After college, she met David, a kind and steady man who shared her dream. They married in a small ceremony surrounded by close family and friends. Life seemed simple and good. For years, Linda and David worked together to build a home filled with love. Linda worked as a schoolteacher, shaping young minds, while David ran a small business. When Linda became pregnant, it felt like a blessing, the perfect start to their new chapter. But the joy was mixed with worry. The pregnancy was difficult, and Linda's health was fragile. She spent many nights awake, anxious about the baby's future. David was supportive, but often distracted by work. He wanted to provide for the family, but Linda sometimes felt alone with her fears. Their marriage was strong, but the strain of the pregnancy tested their connection. Grace, David's younger sister, was always a complicated part of their lives. Unlike Linda, Grace was loud, confident, and a little wild. She had married young and struggled to find her own path. Their family was close, but Grace often felt overshadowed by Linda and David's quiet happiness. She wanted attention, wanted to be seen as important. Since the beginning of Linda's pregnancy, Grace's jealousy grew. She saw how David's focus was on Linda and the baby, and it made her feel left out, forgotten. At family gatherings, she made jokes about Linda's tiredness or asked questions that made her uncomfortable. But it wasn't just jealousy. It was a deeper hunger for something to claim as her own. The house where Linda and David lived was small but warm. It had soft yellow walls, photos of their happiest moments, and the small nursery Linda had decorated with care. Every corner of the house held memories of hope and new beginning. Yet, beneath that calm surface, tension simmered. Linda spent her days preparing for the baby, reading books, setting up the crib, and dreaming of the future. But the emotional weight was heavy. She felt the pressure of being perfect, of protecting her child from any harm, especially from people who didn't have her best interests at heart. David, although loving, struggled to balance work and family. He often missed small moments, which left Linda feeling isolated. He didn't always understand the depth of her worries, especially about Grace. Grace lived nearby, in a small apartment filled with clutter and echoes of past mistakes. She worked at a local store but dreamed of something bigger. She envied Linda's calm life and the respect she commanded. But her jealousy was not just about the baby. It was about feeling invisible, about wanting to matter in a family where she often felt like an outsider. The tension between Linda and Grace was not new, but it grew stronger with each day. Grace's insistence on knowing the baby names was more than curiosity. It was a challenge, a way to claim a part of Linda's joy for herself. Linda understood that this battle was about more than names. It was about respect, boundaries, and the future of their family. At the heart of it all was the baby, a fragile new life that symbolized hope and change. For Linda, protecting her child meant standing up against the jealousy and manipulation around. For Grace, it was a chance to finally be seen and heard. The stakes were high. Linda's happiness, her marriage, and the safety of her baby all hung in the balance. Every choice, every word, could change the course of their lives. And as the days passed, the silent war between the two women grew more dangerous, threatening to destroy everything Linda had fought so hard to build. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon when everything changed. Linda was sitting in the living room, rocking the baby gently in her arms. The soft hum of the fan mixed with the distant sounds of children playing outside. For a moment, peace seemed possible. Then the doorbell rang. David got up to answer it, and Linda stayed seated, careful not to wake the baby. When David opened the door, Grace was standing there, holding a small gift box with a sly smile. Linda's heart sank. She didn't want Grace in the house today, not after their last argument. "Hi, David," Grace said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "I thought I'd come by and see the baby." David hesitated but smiled politely. "Okay, come in." Grace's eyes quickly found Linda and the baby. "She's beautiful," Grace said, but her tone didn't sound genuine. Linda forced a smile. "Thanks." As Grace approached, David went to the kitchen to get some water. The room felt smaller, heavier. Grace leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Tell me the baby names, Linda. I need to know." Linda's hands tightened around the baby's blanket. "I already told you it's private." Grace's eyes flashed with something dark. "You're being selfish. This family deserves to know." Linda stood up, trying to stay calm. "This isn't about the family. It's about respect. You need to stop." Grace's smile vanished. "Or what? You'll keep me out forever?" Suddenly, the baby started to cry. Linda moved quickly to comfort her, but Grace's expression twisted with frustration. Without warning, Grace reached out and tried to take the baby from Linda's arms. "Don't!" Linda shouted, stepping back. Grace ignored her and pulled harder. In the struggle, Linda's hand accidentally hit Grace's face. A sharp slap echoed through the room. Both women froze. Grace's cheek reddened where Linda's hand had touched it. David rushed back in, shocked. "What's going on?" Grace touched her cheek, glaring at Linda. "She hit me. Linda hit me." Linda shook her head, tears spilling down her face. "I didn't mean to." She tried to take the baby. David looked between them, confused and angry. "Grace, is this true?" Grace nodded quickly, her voice full of pain and anger. "Yes, I was just trying to hold her." David's eyes darkened. "Linda, this isn't right." Linda's heart broke. She knew the truth, but it sounded like she was the one causing trouble. She wanted to explain, to tell David everything, but the words caught in her throat. Grace turned to David, her voice soft but full of meaning. "Maybe it's time you think about who you trust." The weight of her words hit Linda like a punch. She realized this fight was bigger than just names or jealousy. Grace was trying to destroy her, to take away everything she loved. That night, Linda lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The slap wasn't just a moment of anger, it was a turning point. Her family was breaking apart, and she had to fight back. Not just for herself, but for her baby. The next morning, Linda made a decision. She would no longer stay silent. She would protect her child and her marriage, no matter what it took. But she also knew one thing. Grace would not give up easily. And this war was only just beginning. After that day, nothing felt the same. The house, once full of hope and quiet laughter, became heavy with tension. David kept his distance from Linda, confused by Grace's words and unsure who to believe. Linda tried to explain, but every time she tried, David's eyes seemed to look through her, searching for something she couldn't give. Grace didn't hide her satisfaction. She smiled in family gatherings as if she had already won, dropping small, poisonous comments about Linda's anger issues and unstable mood. She told their parents how Linda had become difficult, how she was pushing everyone away with her jealousy and stress. Linda felt the walls closing in. Even her closest friends noticed the change. At work, she was distracted and tired. The school where she taught asked if everything was okay because she seemed different, less herself. David spent more time at work and less at home. When he came back, he barely spoke, his frustration growing. He avoided looking at Linda's eyes, afraid of what he might see there. The hurt, the loneliness, the desperate plea for trust. One evening, Linda found a text on David's phone from Grace. It was short but sharp. "Make sure she knows her place. This family needs peace." The message burned in Linda's mind. She realized Grace wasn't just jealous. She was planning, waiting for the right moment to take over everything. Linda tried talking to David about it. "Why won't you stand up for me? You know what's happening. You see how she's trying to ruin us." David shook his head. "I don't know what to believe anymore. I want to trust you, but Grace is family. Maybe you're making this harder than it needs to be." Those words cut deeper than any insult. Linda felt betrayed by the man she loved, the person who was supposed to protect her. At family dinners, the silence was thick. Grace sat close to David, laughing at his jokes, her hand occasionally brushing his arm. Linda tried to smile, but inside she was breaking. She noticed the way David's attention shifted, and it hurt more than she wanted to admit. One afternoon, Linda received a call from an old friend, Tasha, who warned her quietly, "Linda, I've heard things. Grace has been telling people you're unstable, that you're not fit to care for the baby. You have to be careful." Linda's heart pounded. The whispers were spreading, poisoning the family's view of her. She wasn't just fighting Grace anymore. She was fighting a growing lie. That night, Linda sat alone in the nursery. The baby slept peacefully, unaware of the storm around her. Linda whispered softly, "I won't let anyone take you from me." But it was harder than she thought. Grace's presence was everywhere, in the texts, in the stolen glances, in the growing distance between Linda and David. One day, Linda found a letter slipped under her door. It was from Grace, cold and cruel. "If you want peace, give me the baby names. If not, I'll make sure you lose everything." Fear and anger swirled inside Linda. She wanted to fight back, but she felt powerless. She reached out to David again, but he turned away, frustrated and confused. Linda's mother noticed the change too. During a rare visit, she took Linda's hand and said softly, "Child, you have to be strong. This family is more complicated than you think, but you must protect yourself and that baby." Linda nodded, but the weight was heavy. She felt isolated, surrounded by people who doubted her, including the man she loved most. Grace's manipulation didn't stop. She found ways to undermine Linda's confidence, planting seeds of doubt in David's mind, turning others against Linda with half-truths and lies. At work, Linda faced questions from parents and colleagues, rumors whispered behind closed doors. She kept her head high, but inside she was breaking. One night, after a long day, Linda found David waiting outside her door. His face was serious. "We need to talk," he said. Linda braced herself, knowing this could be the moment everything changed. David's voice was low but firm. "I want to believe you, Linda, but right now I don't know what's true anymore. I need time." Tears filled Linda's eyes. She nodded, knowing she couldn't force love or trust. That night, as she rocked the baby, Linda whispered a promise. "I'll fight for us, no matter what." The quiet house held its breath. The family was breaking apart, and only time would tell if love was strong enough to survive the storm. Weeks passed, and the tension between Linda and Grace grew unbearable. It was the night of David's birthday, a rare chance for the family to come together. The house was filled with the smell of food and soft music, but underneath, the air was thick with unspoken anger and suspicion. Linda stood quietly by the window, holding the baby close. She watched as Grace laughed too loudly, her eyes never leaving David. It hurt more than Linda expected. David tried to smile, but even he couldn't hide the strain. Then, without warning, Grace stood up and raised her glass. "To family," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "and to new beginnings." Everyone clapped politely, but Linda felt a cold chill run down her spine. After dinner, David disappeared to take a phone call, leaving Linda alone with Grace. Grace leaned in close, her voice low but sharp. "You know, Linda, you can make this easier for everyone. Just tell me the baby names. That's all I want." Linda shook her head. "No, you don't get to take that from me." Grace's smile twisted into something cruel. "You think you're so perfect, but there's something you don't know, something about David." Linda's heart stopped. "What do you mean?" Grace looked around, then whispered, "He's been hiding things from you, things that could change everything." Before Linda could ask more, David returned, his face pale. "We need to talk. Now." He led Linda into the study, closing the door behind them. The baby's soft cries echoed faintly from the living room. David took a deep breath. "There's something I have to tell you. It's about Grace and me." Linda's mind raced. Was this another lie? Another betrayal? David looked away, ashamed. "Grace came to me with a plan. She's been trying to come between us, and I didn't stop her." Linda's chest tightened. "What plan?" David swallowed hard. "She wanted me to give her the baby names before you could. She said if I didn't, she'd cause trouble. She threatened to tell the family things that aren't true." Linda's eyes filled with tears. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I was scared," David admitted. "I didn't want to lose you or the baby. But now I see I made a mistake." The weight of his confession crushed Linda's heart, but it also gave her a strange sense of relief. At least now the truth was out. Suddenly, there was a loud knock on the study door. Grace's voice called from the other side. "David, open up. You promised to talk to me." David opened the door, and Grace stepped inside, her face calm but her eyes dangerous. Linda stood her ground. "Grace, this ends now. You can't keep tearing this family apart." Grace laughed softly. "You think you can stop me? I've already won." Then, in a move no one expected, Grace pulled out a folder filled with papers and photos. "Look at this," she said, dropping it on the desk. David picked up the papers, his hands trembling. The photos showed him meeting with a woman Linda didn't know. The papers were messages, emails, proof of secret meetings. Linda stared in shock. "Who is she?" David's voice was heavy with guilt. "It's true. I've been seeing someone else. It started before the baby was born. I didn't want to tell you because I thought I could fix it." Linda felt the world collapse around her. The man she trusted, the man she loved, had been living a double life. Grace smirked. "I told you, Linda. You're not the only one with secrets." Tears streamed down Linda's face, but beneath the pain, something fierce began to grow. She wasn't going to let this break her. David reached out, but Linda stepped back. I need time. I don't know if I can forgive you. Grace smiled triumphantly, but Linda ignored her. She held the baby close and made a silent promise to protect her at all costs. That night, the family's truth was shattered. Betrayal, lies, and jealousy spilled into the open. But from that darkness, Linda found a strength she didn't know she had. The fight was far from over, but now she was ready. After that night, Linda knew things had to change. The pain of David's betrayal was deep, but she realized staying in a broken marriage wouldn't protect her or the baby. She needed to find her strength and take control of her life. The next morning, Linda packed a small bag. She didn't tell David or Grace where she was going. She just needed space to think and heal. She called her mother, who welcomed her with open arms and a warm home far from the chaos. At her mother's house, Linda found peace for the first time in weeks. The baby's laughter filled the rooms, and Linda felt the weight of fear and hurt slowly lifting. She began to see clearly what she deserved: love, respect, and honesty. David tried to call to explain, but Linda didn't answer. She needed time away from his confusion and Grace's lies. She started meeting with a counselor, someone who helped her understand her pain and build a path forward. Meanwhile, word spread about David's secret meetings, and family members began to take sides. Grace's power started to fade as people saw her manipulation for what it was. Linda's courage in standing up and walking away earned respect she hadn't felt in a long time. One afternoon, David came to visit. He looked tired and regretful. Linda, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I want to make things right, for you and the baby. Linda looked at him calmly. David, I needed to leave to find myself again. I don't know if we can fix this, but I won't stay where I'm not respected. David nodded, understanding. I'll do whatever it takes. Linda smiled sadly. That's all I can ask. With time, Linda grew stronger. She returned home, but this time on her own terms. She set boundaries with Grace, refusing to let her control the family drama. David, now humbled, began to rebuild trust slowly, showing through his actions that he wanted to be better. The baby thrived in the middle of it all, a bright light reminding Linda why she fought so hard. Though the wounds didn't disappear overnight, Linda found peace in knowing she had the power to choose her own happiness. She wasn't perfect, but she was brave, and that made all the difference. The family wasn't perfect either, but for the first time, there was hope, for healing, for honesty, and for love that could survive even the darkest storms. Months later, Linda sat on the porch with her baby in her arms. The sun was setting, casting a soft golden light over the neighborhood. The baby giggled, reaching out to touch Linda's face, and for the first time in a long while, Linda smiled without pain. She thought about everything that had happened, the fights, the betrayal, the loneliness. It hadn't been easy. There were nights when she felt like giving up, when the weight of it all pressed down on her chest. But she had kept going, for herself and for her child. David had become a quieter presence in her life, someone she wasn't sure about yet, but who was trying. Grace was still around, but no longer a threat. Linda had learned to protect her boundaries and to trust her own voice. Holding her baby close, Linda whispered, "We made it. You and me." The tiny fingers curled around hers, strong and alive. That little life was her reason to believe in tomorrow. Linda knew there would still be hard days, but she also knew she was no longer alone in the dark. She had found a new kind of strength, one born from pain but shining with hope. As the sky faded into night, Linda felt a quiet peace settle inside her. This was not just an ending, it was a beginning. And with that, she was ready to face whatever came next. Hey besties, thanks so much for watching till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, share, drop a comment, and of course, subscribe for more great stories. See you in the next one. P.S. Her friends invited everyone except her to their girls' trip, so she booked the